Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Today, obviously in the garage, we got the new boat getting worked on at bassboatelectronics.com right now. So I'm really excited about some on the water content that we're going to be doing as soon as that starts. We got to break in the engine too. But anyways, we recently did a video in the last couple weeks about shaky heads, kind of my shaky head arsenal. This is my shaky head box right here. And that was pretty well received and got some questions on that. And I kind of wanted to just do a video based on my my thought processes behind the weight of shaky head that you want to use. I think this is really important. I think it changes from person to person. It definitely changes from scenario to scenario. But anyways, I'm just gonna walk through that, and if it resonates with you, definitely use what I have to say to your advantage. And before we get started, just want to remind everybody, we've got the Tackle Warehouse affiliate links in the description below for all the products we're talking about today. So if you're interested in buying any of these products anyways, this is a great way to support my channel, SonarFishing, is by using those links in the description below when you go to purchase these products. So anyways, just wanted to mention that. All right, so let's get started. So obviously the actual shaky head is a very important part of the shaky head system. And as we mentioned in the last video that I did, let me put this where it belongs. And this tackle box is this was actually a hit the last time I did a video like this. This is a tackle box that I'll also include in the description below with those links. It is the best terminal tackle box for my Ned rigs, some of my finesse swim bait heads, and also the shaky head setup that I've got. But essentially in that video I kind of broke down the two different shaky heads that I use. We've got to put this down so we can zoom in on it. So we've got this one right here. This is the new Z-Man SMH. It's not really new. It's actually probably about a year and a half old. The SMH jig head that was designed with this worm in mind, the SMH worms, but you can use it with any soft plastic or Elastec worm. But the SMH jig head obviously has this kind of streamlined bullet shaped design. It's got more of it's got less of an aggressive angle on the line tie. So overall, it's more streamlined. I use it in more, cover situations, whether it's grass or fishing brush piles, things like that. And then the other jig head that I like is going to be a ball style jig head. We'll pull this out right here. So a ball style jig head, this is actually a Z-Man jig head, shaky head that was discontinued, I think, in the last year or so. It's just a ball style jig head. I think it's got a 45 degree, I don't know the exact angle, but 45 degree line tie. Really good, clean bottom, rocky, sandy or shell bed style bottom composition. This is a really good one, but there's a lot of different ball style jig heads that will work in its place since you can't get this one. I'm going to put those in the description below. There's a lot of jig heads on the market that have a screw lock style of jig head. I do not prefer those. I'm not a big fan of those, mostly because those screw locks don't work very well with the Elastec, but for other reasons too. So I'm going to include the jig heads that are kind of substitutions that will work with Elastec, and that have this kind of keeper instead of a screw lock. So anyways, so let's get to the reason why we're doing this video, which is kind of the weight selection. So I've essentially got 3 different weights that I use for my shaky heads. Now, the weights that I use really depends on the cover type and the depth. And also, nowadays, I'm finding that I'm throwing like a shaky head for suspended fish too with forward-facing sonar. So that's a totally different thing. Probably won't touch on that too much because it really just depends on the exact situation and the mood of the fish that particular day. So it's hard for me to kind of describe what you should do, but it really relates to the speed of the fall. You know, some days the fish want it like jetting past them, so you want like a 1/4 ounce. And some days, you know, they want, you know, a real slow fall, so an 1/8 ounce. But those, so essentially I've got an 1/8 ounce, 3/16, and 1/4 ounce. Those are the 3 sizes. I like to really keep it simple as far as my shaky head selection. And there's, again, a lot of different things that go into that decision on which one to use. In general, if I'm fishing a clean bottom situation, shell beds on the Tennessee River, or fishing rock transitions on, you know, a different type of reservoir, or even like a rock pile on Lake Champlain or some northern fishery, whatever it is, and there's clean bottom, hard bottom, I'm going to be using that ball style jig head, but I prefer to use the heaviest jig head I can to maintain bottom contact to a point. Now, when I say that, you know, I'm not going to be using a 1/4 ounce in like 10 foot of water or, you know, 5 foot of water or something like that, because I think that that's overkill for, you know, as far as the weight goes for that depth range. But I do prefer to really lean on a size like 3/16 ounce for most of my fishing in, you know, 5 to, I'd say, 15 feet of water, okay? Because a 3/16 ounce weight is just heavy enough, it's just right to maintain good bottom contact. A lot of people like to fish the lightest weight possible, and they're constantly fighting to feel the bottom. I want to feel everything. I want to do what we call counting rocks or counting shells. I want to be able to feel every single little shell that I come across on the bottom, every little object on the bottom. And so, being the impatient angler that I am, I don't want to be fishing an 1/8 ounce jig head in 10, 12, 15 feet of water, even though there's a lot of anglers that like to do that. I'm not that guy. The only time that I'm using like an 1/8 ounce is if I'm fishing, probably, I'm just throwing out numbers, but somewhere in the 6 foot range or less. Like if I'm fishing a real shallow point or a shallow shoal or shallow shell bed or something like that, and there's no wind and conditions are perfect, that's when I like to use an 1/8 ounce. And there's some other you know, situations I like to use an 1/8 ounce too, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But just assuming we got clean bottom, you know, the different depth ranges, if I'm, you know, in that probably, you know, 10 foot range, 10, 15 foot range, 3/16 is going to be perfect for me. But as soon as you get past like 15 feet of water, I really like to lean on a 1/4 ounce jig head for, you know, dragging on those clean bottoms or shaking on the clean bottoms, okay? However, another point that we need to make is around cover, okay? I rarely am going to use a 1/4 ounce shaky head in cover, you know, unless it's a real deep, you know, deep brush pile or something like that. I might use a 1/4 ounce SMH jig head, you know, in a deep brush pile, so something 20 plus feet. But generally speaking, you know, if you're fishing around heavier cover, you want a lighter presentation so it doesn't dig in there and get snagged. The more weight you have, you know, that you're using, the more opportunity you have to get wedged into something and to snag. So like if I'm fishing like riprap rocks, that's also what I consider heavier cover, because there's a lot of crevices, a lot of places to snag, and so you want to use a lighter weight. So an 1/8 ounce or 3/16 ounce around some type of cover or anything that presents that opportunity to snag constantly, the lighter the weight, the better off. Also, I know I'm throwing a lot at you, I'm rambling on and on about this, but also current. Current is also kind of falling into that heavier cover scenario, and I'm going to explain why. And the reason why current can really increase your snagging is because, you know, it's just essentially a lightweight will just kind of tick above things, okay? It'll kind of go with the current, while a heavy bait, you know, even if there's not a brush pile there or like a rock where you casted, the current can really help you find those little snags, those little holes and crevices that that your bait can fall into and snag. So just like when you're fishing in and around cover, fishing around heavy current, you generally want the lightest weight that you can while still maintaining bottom contact. So cover and current, I tend to go lighter. And that's kind of against the grain. Like if you're fishing like dense grass mats with like a Texas rig, punching and flipping and stuff like that, you want heavy weight. But generally with a shaky head, you're talking about cover that has pretty good wide open holes for it to kind of fall through. So brush piles, riprap and things like that, lay downs, isolated pieces of timber. You're not talking about like real dense grass. So yeah, current, cover, lighter weight in general for my shaky head fishing. And then when I'm fishing clean bottom, that's when I like to go pretty heavy to maintain bottom contact because I'm an impatient person. So anyways, hopefully this makes sense and resonates with you. If you have any questions at all, drop a comment below. I'd love to answer your questions. If you have a topic you want me to cover, also drop that comment below. Check out the affiliate links in the description below for all the products we talked about today and some of my suggestions for that ball head style jig. But other than that, make sure you trust the process, and I'm going to see you out on the water.